Okay. 1 second, I get okay, are you sharing?
But then I think you should give her. Yeah, you can.
Okay, we are beaches, but we are getting there. And can they just see my? I think we can start. But they can see everything. Why do they just see the slides? I think it's something you have to do in your No, you need this. You need your computer. Not this, right? We are in Zoom. Okay, let's start. I don't know. And now I am introducing you to Itumeleng. That she did an undergraduate and honor student here at Wits. And then eventually she went to the Free State to do a master degree. So she did honors in hydrogeology and eventually she majored in the groundwater institute. And now her position as a project hydrogeologist that is focused on the mining sector with the expertise of mining dewatering, not only for underground mining, but also for open pit. Hydrogeology provided her with the opportunity to work in different commodities, and now she has more than 6 years experience. And she was lucky enough not only to work in South Africa in the Bushveld complex, but she also worked for some supergene iron belt in the Northern Cape. And then she could go and work for the porphyry copper in South America. And I think she lives in Chile and she can speak Spanish. So that was an amazing experience for her. So, you know, that your job may take you away from South Africa, but then eventually will bring you back to South Africa. So she's always wanted to have an impact on society. And she always believes that science and hydrology can actually help in improving the life of the people. And when she has free time, she enjoys spending time with the son, but she also has some daydreaming. And recently her daydream is to actually work together with Ramaphosa, so to actually accelerate the action for the National Development Plan. So I trust that you are going there, girl, because sometimes dreams are coming true. And I thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda Kuriso and the School of Geosciences. Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope the online people were able to hear us, and apologies for the delay. It was not our intention to start late. So as I stand before you in the spirit of celebrating Wits 100, I think it's very fitting before I start, but I know maybe my time will be limited, to really pay tribute to an institution, just to also remind you that there was a time in the history of our country when women and Black South Africans were not allowed to study at a higher institution. But Wits was one of those universities that were the first to allow Black South Africans like your Nelson Mandela to come study here. So for me, that was one of the reasons why I applied at Wits. My mom was like, "Are you not going to apply to Indiana University?" I'm like, "No, I want to walk the same campus that Mandela walked on." And today you see only me, but think of the class of 2012 and 2013, which was my honors and my third year classmates and honors year. So I represent them here. So I'm not just here alone, although I'll be sharing my journey. So I think it's very fitting to just start with high school and how I landed up here at Wits. So for me, I did my high school at Rangos, just across the street. For some of you that know it, it's an all-girls high school. I went there in grade 10. People had already had their friends, their cliques. So for me, it was a little bit difficult. So the idea that having to go to a university and start afresh, I was super excited about because I wanted to make genuine friends, a fresh start. But then at home, this was after we've written our prelim exam, I was binging National Geographic. I'm like, okay, cool, what else is there to do? I've done the exams, preparing for the finals. And then there was a time when my mom is like, okay, cool, but you need to apply. So I went to Saibono. I don't know if some of you know Saibono. It's a center right here in the city center, because I wanted to find out, okay, cool, what am I going to study? What am I going to study? But I think for me, I was super privileged that at a very young age, my parents, my primary school teachers, your youth leaders really instilled in me that you honestly can do whatever you want with your life and have an impact with your life. So I always knew at the back of my head that, you know what, I want to do something meaningful. I didn't know what it was at the time. So Saibono, I go through their career magazine. There's this guy standing in the middle of the river and he's holding an instrument in his hand. His job title says hydrogeologist. Few women are in the industry. It's a growing industry. It's much needed in the mining industry. There are very few in South Africa. And then I was like, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do. Just for the prospects that there are few women doing it and it's a growing market. Then I was like, cool, I'm going to do that. So I applied to Wits, only to make it to the extended program. I don't know if some of you went through the extended program. But with in our time, so if your maths and science were not at a particular level, you needed to first go through an extended program and then start your 3-year degree. But I'm super grateful for that year because that's where I met my people, the people I call my good friends today. So with the School of Geosciences, this very building, so many memories. Even walking up the stairs, I see some guys are sitting under the tree. We used to eat lunch there. You can see Kuri, so there he is, down there somewhere. So he was also in my class as well. I think here for me, that's where I found myself, if I can put it that way. My passion for hiking came from the field trips. My passion for mining just came from the exposures that we had. We went to go visit different kinds of mines. And I was just fascinated, like, how do human beings engineer to dig such holes to take out something resourceful or valuable, such as minerals? So I was really passionate and fascinated by that. I was part of the Rock Sock committee. I don't know if Rock Sock still exists. Yeah, so we would organize braais, gala dinners. So I would say maybe I was be a student doing everything else. So because then I think the slogan was Wits gives you the edge, more like it pushed us to the edge, because you would come with your A pluses or an A student from high school. And for the first time, I got a 40%. I was crushed. But then the learning comes to say that it's really about what you make out of the experiencing adversity. And my focus was, you know what, I'm going to pass, but I'm going to make the most out of this experience. So this building has really means so much to me because the people you met here didn't care whether you're wearing designer brands, didn't care whether you were from an affluent school or not, but we commonly met on the basis of we were curious. We wanted to travel the world. I mean, the lectures from, why am I forgetting her name? For economic geology, talking about the different commodities across the world. Literally in this class, we traveled, you know, in your mind. You went either to your Chiles, you went to your Canadas, but just through learning geology. Yeah, so I really cherish the time I spent here in geosciences. Okay, cool, fast track. I graduate. But then again, for me, everyone else, if you can see in that graduation picture, everyone else was graduating with their honors and I was graduating 3rd year. So that means I had failed some courses that I needed to finish up. So I was finishing, I don't remember what courses they were. So I started my honors year in the middle of the year. So in a way, it felt like, everyone is going to go work. Oh, I'm left behind. What's going on? But something that always came back to the back of my head is that this is your own journey. And did you see the title of my talk was Solving the Water Crisis for Sub-Saharan Africa? I forgot to mention what that meant. So that was a journal entry that I put in my journal when I was doing I think it was second year, when we were introduced to hydrogeology. Because for me, it made complete sense to say, okay, Doctor, I will not forget this image. It's so strong in my head. So he showed us an image of that the earth is made up of, 98% of the earth is made of seawater. We all know, right? But the 2% of that 2%, 98% of the 2% is groundwater. And for me, it didn't make sense. Why are we relying so much on surface water, where the rainfall, and we are redirecting it, we're storing it into dams? Why are we not tapping into this additional resource? And then when you come across the news and you hear, we've got water issues, the question kept coming back to my mind, but we've got groundwater. I mean, can't we drill some boreholes, make a plan, All right, so graduated with my honors. I absolutely, and I'm very proud to say, I got a certificate of excellence for hydrogeology, mine geology, because that was I really enjoyed it. Oh, did I move? I really enjoyed it. All right, so working-wise, so I was accepted into the then flagship graduate program, which from Anglo-American, which was called BLAST. Maybe some of you have heard about it. So it was an award-winning program because they offered the opportunity for you to travel across the globe and experience the operations for Anglo-American. And for me, doing hydrogeology, the business was open to say, okay, we've not had many hydrogeologists, so this is an opportunity for you to help us develop a graduate program, really get into helping us develop the discipline of hydrogeology. So I was super stoked about that. So I started at Sishen Mine in the Northern Cape. Sure, the place is hot. So even in summer, rather, even in winter, it is really hot. Temperatures about 35 to 38 degrees, right? So I spent a year at Sishen. This is where I worked with the most amazing hydrogeologist who taught me, I think, almost everything. And then I was thrown in the deep end. So we also have Kolomela Mine, also in the Northern Cape, and they didn't have a resident hydrogeologist there. And I was given the opportunity to act. I was given a budget, 19 million rand. They said to me, we need a dewatering program. It's not yours, it's for doing the work. We need a dewatering program. Here's the budget, scope out everything. Of course, still in consultation with the lead hydro I was working with at Sishen. And then after 2 years, I went to Mogalakwena, which some of you come from Limpopo may know it. And I worked there a bit, but the change was a bit, I worked with the geotech engineers. So the focus here was not, Sishen and Kolomela was dewatering, as in, that as you mine below the water table, rather, mining is designed to be done under dry conditions. And as you go down, you mine below the water table, right? So our job is to ensure that the mine is dry by all means. So that's essentially what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. You manage drill contractors, you plan a program, you do aquifer tests, you do pumping tests, you do hydrogeochemical analysis. Basically, as you know, we are investigators as geologists. We want to find out what information is the earth trying to tell us, and therefore we make decisions around that. All right, went to Mogalakwena and then had the awesome, I think we used to call it, I don't know if it's right to say, a geogasm. 2 years of my life I spent in Chile, working in the Andes mountain. That was like the highlight of my hydrogeology career. Deep dive, I guess you study Spanish formally, but when you get there, they speak slang. So it was like you're starting from zero, but I had amazing support. That meant that maybe it took me 6 to 7 months to be fully fluent, and then to end up being in a point where you are confident to lead teams. That was my team that I was leading there. That's me in the middle. Yeah, and that was super, super, super amazing. All right, and then just as I had come back from Chile, there was a shift also in the business. And I think maybe you'd be wondering, I've been with Anglo for the past almost 10 years now, because I think the business offers the opportunity for you to evolve. I could have left and gone to join other companies, but yeah, they really care about the individual and their career development. So I'm still with them. So I've since transitioned into sustainability, and I'm sure some of you, I even heard some of you speaking about a few of the importance of caring for the planet and people outside, because that for me reminded of, oh, remember the greater call of my life is to make an impact. So whether I'm going to do the impact within business or I'm going to do it outside of business, sustainability makes sense. So when I came back, I thought to myself, I'm not going back to the operations. I think I've done that. I've got my competencies. What's next? So I'm currently part of the group sustainability integration team. So what that means is not only Anglo, but many companies, they've committed to the global sustainable development goals, which some of you may know very well. And they're saying that we are no longer just about profit. We are no longer just about digging holes and not being environmentally conscious, but we want to make a positive impact to the planet as well. So my role and our role is to ensure that all of our mining sites, they have what we call their sustainable mine plan. So every site needs to plan for the amount of water it uses, the amount of fresh water it uses. We need to reduce the amount of fresh water we use, whether it's also climate change, we are reducing our carbon footprint, biodiversity, whether it's education, what education programs can we run in our host communities. So covering the broader scope of sustainability. But I put the other pictures just to show you that I've always been not only focused on one thing, but doing other things as well, just following that passion that I have inside of me. So at work, we have what they call ambassadors for good, which is if anything is close to your heart, a charity that you want to work with, they support you, they give you a grant. So for me, with my colleague for the past 3 years, we've been supporting schools in rural communities, and we are helping install filtering systems for their water to ensure that they get clean, safe drinking water for that. Also with our company, outside of my main work, I support them with mapping their impact with the global SDGs. So I think the point to make here, mainly to the students, is you are more than just your degree. There are other things that you are passionate about. And this is the right place actually for you to find those passions. I wish I knew some of the passions that I had earlier, and I definitely would have started them earlier. All right, so I think now my current focus is on the sustainability space, is really about accelerating the role of business in Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 mainly is saying, how do we globally ensure that everyone is achieving the sustainable development goals? Whether you are an engineer, whether you're a geologist, how do you in your role, how does your role translate such that you are able to contribute to the global agenda? I think for me, it has always been about what is your what? Like, what is the problem that you want to solve in the world? And yes, having to find hydrogeology, connecting it with, oh, okay, cool. Sub-Saharan Africa, we 70% is reliant on, rather SADC, 70% of SADC countries are reliant on groundwater. I think that's really where I want to have the impact in the world. So, okay, so I've done so many things, and I'm grateful for, so I was part of the Brightest Young Man cohort in 2017. So this is where they chose 100 African youth. And this is where I got introduced to the SDGs actually. And then they challenged us that within your organizations, within your roles, how then do you ensure that the greater good still gets achieved? In my role as well, other things that I did outside of work. So I pioneered with some of my colleagues a solution where, so I've always wondered, okay, cool, the water that we dewater out of the mine, where does it go to? For some mines, you have a license to decant, but for some mines you don't. So my question was, okay, cool, outside of the fence impact, how then do we partner with municipalities to ensure that they have the ability to take up the excess water that we do not need, but we dewater through our process? So I've been working very closely with some of our teams to ensure that at Session particularly, that work continues. And it's something that I am influencing. I'm currently seconded in one of our business unit called Kumba, and I'm influencing our CEOs to take up what they call the CEO water mandate. So you see, my what has always been, how do I solve the solution? I mean, rather solve the water crisis for sub-Saharan Africa. But the things that I've been doing are related to it, although it may not be the it, but are related to it. I think the point with that is just to show you, know what your North Star is, and then follow the small passions along the way that will lead you eventually to the North Star. Okay, so you may now ask, oh, okay, so are you solving the water crisis in sub-Saharan Africa? I am so grateful to say that only this year, the final, what can I say, opportunity brought itself. So I was invited to come in and present at the Zanzibar Water Conference, which was hosted by their government and their water ministries. They invited a lot of industry people, academia, and they really put out their problems to say 60% of our country is reliant on groundwater. We can only meet 63% of the demand. The rest of the demand, we don't know what to do. So we were brainstorming to really try to help them to come up with solutions on how they can start to come up with applying rather scientific approaches in their planning, in their development planning. I think that was the real key. And I got the opportunity to meet the director of the SADC Groundwater Institute, and he was super excited when I told him my long dreams of long ago, and we'll be partnering with him and some of other geologists in my space for us to create what I call hydrogeologists for good. Essentially, we'll be just traveling across the continent, meeting with various water ministries and sharing with them and applying hydrogeological principles, scientific targets and knowledge, and to help them to plan their groundwater dewatering programs. And that for me, that is something I've always wanted to do, and I'm grateful for that. Okay, so I think this is almost the last slide. Okay, I put the three, what can I call them? Aspirational visions, maybe for Africa, for South Africa, for the globe. And if you're still thinking, am I at the right place with geology? Is this the place? You are at the right place. It is the place. Now you have to figure out, cool, let's say your focus is geochemistry. How then do I use my geochemistry to create an impact? If your focus is petrology, how then do you start to inform institutions and governments around future prospects? I mean, mining is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And how then do you inform development planning? If you can't find your passion in any of these three areas, I think you can. Just look into them, Google them, and then see what you are. Rather, ask yourself, what is the problem that you want to solve in the world? For me, that has always been the big thing. All right, and I think as I wrap up, seeing that we were late, I just wanted to highlight a few of my classmates who've also gone to do amazing things. So Amanda, she's now working with the Swedish government. And it's funny, it seems like most of us have diverted to sustainability in a way. So she also studied geology. So she's working with the Swedish government advisory on climate change, so on climate change action. So she's living in Sweden, doing amazing things. Rosie, I met with her a couple of weeks ago. She's based in London now. She was heading what can I say? The shipment for BHP. She was the head of BHP shipment in terms of the analysis for geology, in terms of the rock or the material that goes out to the customers in terms of its quality. She was living in Singapore, but then she decided that, okay, I've done that. Now she studied at the London College sustainability. She's now interested in the integration of supply chain and sustainability, also geologist. Tapelo is heading the UK climate action program as well. So he also studied in London, postgrad as well. Ste, my very good friend, so he is a senior geology manager at Impala Platts, but his passion is education. So he founded a program and he's leading it with his volunteers So they run Saturday school programs in I think 3 host communities that he's responsible for. Mahele, and most of them were part of the Rock Sock committee, if I tell you. So there is a thread there. So Mahele is doing amazing. He's the CEO of his own company. He just finished his MBA. He's traveling the world, doing amazing things. Tapelo is leading his own engineering geology consulting firm. And then Silo is living in Chile. So I was with him in Chile and he's still there. Yeah, so these are just a few. And of course, Kuriso, my very good friend, who is lecturing here at Wits as well. So these are just a few of my classmates who went out to do amazing things. But it just goes to show you that I think all of us really found our edge here at Wits. And we found each other, like if you make time to invest in the friendships that you're going to make here at university, because you're going to have them for life. Really, these are the ones that you're going to have. You'll be sharing your baby moments with to say, oh, I'm pregnant. Yeah, these are the ones. All right. And then if I can leave you with anything, you are made up of the places you've been to, the people who are in your life, the books you've read, and the food you've eaten. So I would recommend you. South Africa is very small. Leave the country and give us a reason to come visit you. Yes, leave and go see the world. There's so much to see. So books that changed my life, depending on your personality and of course what you're into. The Power of Habit. If you can read that as early as possible, please do. Like, it's going to set you up even in your work life, even in your own personal life, because discipline is super critical for you to be excellent. Becoming Supernatural. I love this book because it really explains the science behind mental health, why it's important for you to be conscious of your thought and how you can meditate in order for you to have mental health. One day you're going to be a mom, maybe a dad, conscious parent. I think it helped me so much. And Return to Love. I think that book really helped me understand my relationships with my sister, colleagues, really being compassionate towards accommodating other people and understanding their point of view. And it's not always necessarily from your point of view. Places that yes, please go see. Okay, the first one up there is San Pedro Atacama at the tip of Chile. Amazing. That's all I can say. That was in Banff National Park in Canada. Machu Picchu in Peru. I definitely must go back to Peru. It's a beautiful country. And you must, I'm sure every geologist in my book hikes and likes hiking. Please hike one of the trails in Patagonia in the tip of Chile. But the world is your oyster. I think you saw a symbol there of Cambridge. So my next steps, I'm going to, okay, I got already a certification under sustainability from Cambridge, but is to get another master's from Cambridge. But for the fact that your Wits degrees are considered amongst the best in the world, there's no question to say whether or not it's a good degree or not. But really, in closing, it's really about what you do with your degree. I think I got to that point to say, whether if you're able to pass with an A+, please do so. But if you are not, find the other things that define you. You are not just your degree. I hope you are able to at least see a little bit of a different perspective. And as you continue your geoscience journey, remain curious, and you are at the right place. You are at the right place. Don't doubt that the decision you made to study geology or one of the geosciences is a mistake. You are at the right place. So all the best. Finish what you started, and please get yourself a passport and leave South Africa. Thank you guys so much.
That was very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since you are curious, that I know, do you have any question? Please, this is the chance to interact with Itumeleng. Although she's very friendly, open, so I think you can always reach out to her. Here we have a question.
Hi, thank you for the talk. It was very good. I wish it was longer, but okay. I just wanted to ask about the project you're conducting right now, or you're working on in the sub-Saharan. What made you like get to that point? I have two questions. What about that area like attracted you to want to study or help them solve the crisis? Two, besides the dewatering project you're doing, is there anything else in addition to the dewatering in that same area?
Okay, cool. Thank you. I didn't get your name.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks for Kelelo. Okay, so on the first one, I think it's always hearing that, for example, oh, we have a water crisis. Do you remember when Cape Town had right? And then the first question is, okay, it's a coastal town, but we have day zero. That doesn't make sense, right? So for me, it's always been about, it's always the curiosity. And I've always been a firm believer that African solutions are going to come from Africans. And then you know very well that I think it's 30% of mostly rural villages don't have access to water. So for me, it's really finding a problem that resonated, and the science connected the problem for me. So really find a problem that resonates with you. Maybe water scarcity doesn't bother you, but maybe when you think about, I'm not sure, maybe when you see street kids, or for example, it bothers you, you know, it doesn't bother me, but it bothers you. But there's something you can apply to say, okay, cool, there's a science, there's always a science to everything. That has always been my approach. But then I think the gap that I also noticed is that the social scientists and us core scientists are not meeting each other, because the social scientists are very close to the issues, but us core scientists are so into our, yes, lab results, hypothesis, but in most cases, we provide solutions that can supplement or support what the issues that social scientists are trying to resolve. Okay, I've answered long, but essentially just see a problem. There's so many problems in the world. What resonates more with you, and how can you use your degree to work towards that? And then on your second one, on mine dewatering. Okay, so now I'm not at Anglo, I'm no longer working with mine dewatering. So it's now the work that I'm going to be doing now with some SADC countries, where we're going to be looking at the, for example, the dewatering program across country to see how we can better support them. But the gaps that we've seen so far, what's this, investment? Most water ministries don't have a lot of money, for example, maybe to maintain their pumping systems like you would do in a mine. Because in a mine for us, the pumps must run 24/7. If a pump is broken, the engineers are quickly there to resolve. But then also we do further analysis. How long has this pumping? What is its actual life? Is it meant to, what was it spec'd to produce at? You know, we do further analysis, but whereas ministries and governments don't do that. And that's the expertise we are trying to bring to say, there's actually science that can help support that. I hope I answered you.
Maybe what do you do maybe as a hydrogeologist, and like what are some of the challenges you face in your field?
Oh, all right. I absolutely enjoyed hydrogeology in the mines. So in a day, basically your day starts at 6. In the mines, we wake up. There is no, I'm going to start late. Your day starts at 6, we meet the GM. So, but before that, every month we have a plan. So all the heads of departments meet together to say, what is your plan for every month? So because I work closely with the mine engineers, remember the mine engineers, their main interest, they want to take out the ore out of the ground. They don't want water interfering in any way, and they don't want any slopes to be unstable. So we discuss our monthly plans, and then I have, like you saw, drill crews. And then we speak, okay, cool. This is the borehole, we're gonna drill here, here, and there. But to determine where they're gonna drill, you do a further background analysis as the hydrogeologist. So I have my own conceptual model, my own numerical model that informs me, where do I think most likely we're going to find water? So I go check on the drill guys, how far is the boreholes, or they even call, we've got water, then you call the pumping testing guy, he comes. So basically you are coordinating the program to ensure that the pumping is done, but also the drilling is done to install more pumps. Essentially, you want to put a lot of straws around the mine, taking out as much water as possible. Yeah. Did you have a second question? Oh, the challenge is being a woman was a challenge because I think old school then you dealt with the old school culture of mining where you needed to either be tall or you needed to have a certain voice to be heard. But I think what helped me the most is the building relationships. Essentially, people are people. So if it meant I needed to call someone for him to assist in doing something, I did that. For me, I didn't take anything personally, because if you take things personally, it becomes a little bit harder. So, but it was a challenge being a woman in a very male-dominated industry, especially being part of a program that accelerated you to be in tables where some people thought you were not ready for. It was a challenge. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, with your various work that you've done in the industry, like in Africa, what do you think is our future, like the future of the country in terms of water?
Okay, two things. The first one, I think we are termed a dry country or in terms of water, mainly because of where our main source comes from. And the reliance has mainly been on surface water. Rainwater going to fill the dams. You've heard the dams are dry, right? But then we haven't transitioned to another source, which is either groundwater or seawater to supplement that source. So in my point of view, I don't think we've got a water crisis in South Africa. We've got a water management crisis. So it's really about getting the management right. And it goes to also all the other challenges that I think we face. But with regards to water, I don't think we have a problem, but we just have a management crisis. And we need the sciences to inform development plans. We need the sciences to inform, to say exactly, this is the storage capacity, for example, of this province. These are the boreholes of this province. Just for us to be able to have the data to support development planning.
And do you think we're like reaching the goal of the national development plan?
That's a very tricky one. I think we're going to need to do like a lot to ensure that we reach them. What year is it now? 2022, right? We've got 8 years, right? So that's why I am so passionate about the role of business. It's not only government's role to ensure that we achieve our goals. Business also now needs to come in and come to the party and say, okay, how then do we support government to reach their goals? So that's where I think because business has investment, they've got money, they've got the technology to implement, and they've got the pace. The acceleration is really fast. So that's where I think business now needs to come in to accelerate for us to achieve those goals.
I thank everybody.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to come now and talk to Itumeleng. She's a role model for all of us. And we will meet next week, where we are going to start to go and shift to more a mining sector, since we are going to have a person from Kimberley, so a diamond exploration company, coming speaking to us. That is James Campbell, that he has exploring for diamond from the last 20, 30 years. So I thank you, everybody, and see you next week. Bye. Bye. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'll get in a passport.